Item 1.01, we'll have a prayer by Justin Hagler from the Simple Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Bullard. Mr. Hagler, you can just step to that mic, and I'll take some personal privilege and tell you thank you for everything you do for this community and this system, and it's a pleasure to have you here this evening.
Thank you so much, man. Let's pray. You know, Father, I just think about all of the men and women in this room who've answered the call to serve you and to serve our community. I'm just very, very grateful for them. And I also just realize that as I look at Scripture, you tell us that we make our plans, but you order our steps. And so I take really just peace and confidence in each and every man and woman that's in the position they're in, knowing that you have placed them there for this exact time. And I know that that's a little scary at times and a little, pressure-filled at times, but I pray that they could just have some peace and some comfort knowing, God, that you've put them there. And that there are people in this community that love them, support them, and encourage them, and not just praying for them now, but are praying for them each and every day. I pray for strength, I pray for wisdom, and I ask you, God, to give them guidance and to remind them above all else that, God, that there is a God who hears them and promises to lead, guide, and direct them as they make the decisions, God, that are best for this community. Again, we thank you, God, for who they are. We thank you for their sacrifice and ask you to bless them this day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we already had our first little hiccup, and I forgot to ask the superintendent for any prayer requests, so we'll pray silently for each of these after.
I think we can all remember these people in our prayers this evening or in the morning. Family of Linda Haling, a Bossier Parish bus driver. She passed away on July the 9th. Please keep her and her family in your prayers. Coach Bo Meeks is continuing to do well in his recovery process. Please keep him in your prayers as well. And then everybody in our community that has been affected by COVID-19, either directly or indirectly. Pastor Hagler said this as well. I mean, we need to pray for our community and for our students. So keep those folks in your prayers if you would, please. Thank you, President Bamberg.
Thank you, Superintendent. Item 1.02, approval of the minutes of the regular session of the board for June 18th,
Second.
2020. Motion by Mr. Cheatham, second by Mr. Bass. Please vote. Motion carries. Item 1.03, approval of the agenda for the regular session of the board for July 16th, 2020.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Brotherton. Second by Mr. Bockhouse. Please vote. Motion carries. Item 2.01, recognition of newly appointed administrators by Superintendent Downey. It looks like Miss Sonia. I don't know. Whoever wants to take that.
Good evening, President Bamberg, Superintendent Downey, board members, and to all of our friends and family in the audience here this evening. We are especially excited to announce 5 new administrators to the board who will be leading Bossier schools as we begin the 2020-2021 academic year. The first person we would like to recognize this evening is Ms. Medora Abney. Before pursuing a career in education, Mrs. Abney worked for 17 years as a petroleum engineer, but something kept tugging at her to make a difference in children's lives. And she has certainly done that since becoming an educator with Bossier Schools, and now she has the opportunity to lead the RV Kerr Cats as their principal. So will you please help me congratulate Medora Abney.
Thank you, Superintendent Downey, board members, Assistant Superintendent Rowland, and Dr. Bourgeois. Thank you so much for this opportunity, for having faith in me. Education is my passion, and Title I is my passion, and I'm so excited to be able to serve the RV Kerr community. And I have found out the past 2 weeks that we have the most amazing teachers. They're hard workers, they're excited, and we're going to surprise you with RV Kerr, so y'all be looking for us. Thank you so much. Yes.
Introduce your family.
Oh, I do. They're up there. That's my husband, David. He is a coach and a science teacher at Benton High School. And my son, Travis. And my son, Clayton, and his girlfriend, Morgan. Thank you.
The next educator moving up the ranks is Miss Kelly Ogilvie. And Mrs. Ogilvie is a proud product of Bossier Parish Schools. She has served in a number of capacities since coming to work for Bossier Schools in 2003. Education is in Miss Ogilvie's blood, as her mother, Kay Canal, also works in the district as an elementary curriculum coordinator. And Mr. Downey, you may want to kick in here some additional information about Miss Ogilvie, but while she makes her way to the podium, please give a big round of applause to the new principal of Legacy Elementary, Kelly Ogilvie.
Mr. Downey, President Van Berg, school board members, thank you so much for this opportunity to serve Bossier Parish in this capacity. As Ms. Bell said, I have always been in the classroom. I can't remember a time that I was not in a classroom. And so I'm so thankful for those that have helped me along this journey. There's so many to name, but Mr. Scott Smith for hiring me at Benton High School as an English and Spanish teacher, for Mr. Tom Daniel and Ms. Terry Johnson, who started me on my leadership journey as a curriculum coordinator for Bossier Parish, and for Ms. Kimmy Smith, who served as an incredible mentor and friend as assistant principal at Legacy. I am looking forward to a wonderful and exciting year as being a Legacy Bear, and so I am so thankful for this opportunity to serve our community. I'd also like to recognize my family. Okay, they're up there. My husband is Blake Ogilvie. My daughters are Jennings Ogilvie. She's a second grader at Legacy. And my other daughter is Gemma, and she's 3. My mom, Kay Canal. My dad, Tommy Head. And my stepmom, Sandy Head. And so thank y'all for being here tonight to support me as well.
And once a Legacy Bear, always a Legacy Bear. Megan Hembry was an original member of Legacy's first kindergarten team and now has come full circle, honored to be a Legacy Bear once again. She is joining the administration team to serve alongside Kelly Ogilvie as the assistant principal at Legacy Elementary. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you Miss Megan Hembry.
Board, Mr. Downey, Mr. Rowland, Dr. Bourgeois, I would just want to express my sincere thanks and appreciation for this moment. I'm so thrilled to be back home at Legacy. I want to thank Ms. Ogilvie for the opportunity to serve by her side. We are so excited to welcome back our Bears. We just can't wait to have our kids back and get going and just continue to make great things happen at Legacy. I'd like to introduce you to my family, my husband, Chris, and then my children, Ella, Lily, and Will, along with my many other family members and friends. Thank you.
And we continue our legacy theme this evening. As the former principal, Kimmy Smith has helped lead the Legacy family in creating a strong school culture where students are loved and nurtured, allowing them to thrive in all areas of development. Mrs. Smith is a proud alumnus of Bossier Schools who pursued her professional degree in education so she could return to give back to the school system that poured so much into her. And what a shining star she is, too. We're going to recognize her at a later time about this, but Ms. Smith is one of 9 2021 Principal of the Year finalists representing Bossier Parish. During her 27-year career in education, she has served our parish in a number of capacities, and now she assumes the role as supervisor of pre-K through 2nd grade for Bossier Parish. Please join me in congratulating Kimmy Smith.
Good evening, President Bamberg, Superintendent Downey, members of the board, Mr. Rowland, Dr. Bourgeois. Thank y'all so much for this opportunity. My mom was a teacher, and she taught for 37 years, and that's all I ever wanted to do was be a teacher. But I've been blessed to have amazing leaders throughout my career that have invested in me and poured in me. So it really is a dream come true to be here tonight. I told Mr. Downey in the interview committee when I interviewed that my heart just gets a little bit bigger and beats a little bit faster when I'm around the little people. And so getting to serve in this capacity, I feel like I'm returning to my first love. So I'm excited to serve our principals and teachers and support them in the work that they do each day for our youngest learners. So thank you so much. My kids are here, or not here. My husband is, Jason, somewhere up there. There he is. My kids are actually at beach camp. Their first time since we've had all 3 of them, that they've all 3 been gone, so we don't hardly know what to do. But they're usually my little fan club that's here. But my sweet, dear friend Sue Ann is here, who's like my family. And then Kelly O'Gilvey, of course, taking the helmet legacy, and they are in good hands. Strong leaders between her and Miss Hembry, and just a great, amazing, dedicated staff. So anyway, thank y'all so much.
No kids, it sounds like a night at 2 John's. The final administrator that we are recognizing tonight really rocks, literally. You know Waylon Bates as the educator, but do you know Waylon Bates, the musician? He can play a mean lead guitar, just telling you. Check out his YouTube channel. Bet you didn't know he had that. He also plays lead guitar in the praise band at First Baptist Houghton. So that's just a little lagniappe for you this evening. Mr. Bates has experience in every grade band, teaching elementary and middle school, and then leading one of the largest high schools in Bossier Parish, Parkway High School. He will now put that experience into play as the supervisor of high school curriculum and guidance. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Waylon Bates.
Mr. Downey, the board, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to it. It's just a wonderful experience to be part of the Bossier family. I'd personally like to thank Mr. Cheatham, Mr. Newman, and Mr. Bamberg, our South Bossier reps, for always welcoming my family and myself into the Parkway community. I'd like to thank Doc. She's been super as far as showing me stuff at the BIC, and I know Terry Johnson's not here, but it's not every day you get to work with somebody that you're taking their job for a couple weeks and learn some things, and she's been awesome as well. Mr. Rowland's been great. Mr. Downey's always awesome at what he does and supportive. I would like to introduce my family. They're somewhere up in the cheap sheets up here in the rafters. My wife, Lindsay, a Parkway graduate. My daughter, Grayson, is a senior at Parkway. And my son, wearing his Parkway fishing cap, is in the 3rd grade at Houghton Elementary. He's been saying for a couple years he was going to be Coy Brotherton's quarterback at Parkway, but there's been a game change. Now he's going to be with the other Brotherton at Houghton. So we're looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the opportunity being at the BIC, and I appreciate everything, and I love Bossier Parish. Thank you so much.
All right, so that I believe they are having, if anybody, we're going to get to the business side of the meeting, so if you want to excuse yourself, I think they're having a deal over in the library, all of our newly appointed administrators. Not you, Mr. Blackhouse.
No.
I'm going to move 3.05 up. Mr. Rogers has I think he has a date with his wife tonight. I think that's what he said, something like that. But we're going to move him up to the beginning of the agenda so we can get him to a family evening in a timely manner. So we will go on to item 3.05. It's a request for the renewal of the student accident insurance, and that'll be presented by Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. President. And my wife's going to be very disappointed because that's actually, I'm taking my dad to a birthday party. So, I mean, now I'm going to owe her a date for sure. Mr. Downey, board, so good to be with you all tonight. Thank you for allowing me to present. This is the student accident insurance renewal time. And on page 2 of the proposal that I have, I will point out that as expected, because of our loss trends, the premium is up this year, but we were very fortunate in that the insurer, Zurich, is refunding 15% of our premium because of the reduced student activity and the related exposure. So the good news is we're within about $1,800 on a net basis of where we were last year. We did solicit other quotes. We had one that the next closest was about $20,000 more than this. And basically, we have no change in this with one big exception, and that is Bollinger has been our claims administrator for many years. And in later years, and it's even impacted some board members, Mr. Slack's family, we had an issue with Bollinger. Mr. Newman's family has had an issue with Bollinger, along with some other parents, because the reporting of the claims with them is only accepted by first-class mail. And as you know, unless you send it certified, return receipt requested, you're just dependent on that claim form getting to its destination on time. And of course, we're counting on Bollinger making sure that what is received actually makes it to the claims department. And Mr. Bass and I talked about this a good bit. In today's age, that's really an unreasonable position. Mr. Downey agreed, and Mr. Rowland agreed. And so what we did this year was change claims administrators to K&K Insurance. K&K Insurance, I think, will be an enhanced claims process, even though the insurer will stay the same, Zurich. They do accept emailed claim forms, they accept fax claim forms, and you can still mail it. But the good thing about the other two options, of course, is you have electronic confirmation. And, you know, on this coverage, since you have to report the claim within 90 days of injury, that's an important item. So I want to thank my insurance committee chairman for his support on this. I want to thank Mr. Downey's support for doing that as well. If we go to page 3, you can see that the trend of our losses continue to increase. We were unprofitable at the previous premium level. And so I've also talked to Ms. Bamberg about realistic expectations next year. It's possible we could have another discount because of COVID, but I don't think we can count on that. So I just want to let you know that this year we had an exception and it worked in our favor. And then when we go to page 4, I'm just pointing out the obvious. For this coverage to apply to our interscholastic team sports as well as the named activities, treatment has to begin within 30 days of injury. The reporting has to be received within 90 days. And of course, this responds on a secondary basis. So if a parent has health insurance, this will help with out-of-pocket expenses, etc. If a student does not have any health insurance, it will respond as if it's primary. On page 5, at the top, we have a significant improvement in that the max increased from $25,000 to $50,000 this year. We were able to negotiate that. For our interscholastic athletic injuries, we have catastrophic coverage above that as well, and that's the way it has been. And so in here, we include the claim form, etc. I want to compliment Mr. Thompson. He already has the updated claim information on the school board's website. Technically, this coverage does not start until August the 1st, but I don't think we have too many activities going right now. So, Mr. Thompson, I want to thank you for doing that. And I will be glad to entertain any questions, and I hope speaking through this mask has not been too tough for you to understand.
So no comments? Entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Bass, second by Ms. Smith. Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you
Mr.
so
Rogers.
much, and I appreciate it, and thank you for allowing me to exit.
No worries.
Mr. Rogers, I think that date needs to be 2 Johns as discussed earlier, so I just want to make sure Miss Susan gets a chance.
Mr. Bass, it is possible that she is watching. So I'm going to exit before it gets even more expensive. Thank you all. All right.
All right, we will go back to 3.01, a request, an adoption of the 2020 Bossier Strong Start Plan, presented by Superintendent Ms. Downey, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Dr. Bourgeois, and Assistant Superintendent of Administration, Mr. Rowland.
Thank you, President Bamberg. Mr. Rowland passed out the plan to everybody. I think you all have a copy of it. He's going to go through it briefly and highlight the different components of it, as well as Dr. Bourgeois. Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, Superintendent Downey. President Bamberg, board members, thank you for the opportunity to share with you a tireless product of a dedicated staff. And just to give you just a short background, we had a lot of people that were involved in the development of our reopening plan. We had 16 principals. We had the district supervisors as well as the directors. Of course, Dr. Bourgeois and her entire department and Coach Downey have all pitched in to create the executive edition of our Bossier plan that you have in front of you. This plan, just to give you a conceptual idea about what we're talking about here, is in all of our sports we have rule books and then we have playbooks, okay? And so we were given a rule book to develop the Bossier Parish playbook, and so we did. And now this becomes the Bossier Parish rule book, and the task for our schools are to create their playbook that allows them to identify with the concepts that we've put in the plan. We've been intentional, we've been deliberate, and we've been patient in how we developed the plan. I think one of Coach Downey's primary directives to us was let's be concise, but let's be consistent and intentional about what we're doing because of the ever-changing situation that we're in. So we feel like the timing is just right for us, all the way from the guidelines being given to us on June 30th to the Bessie vote on July 14th. The opportunity to come before you tonight and present the plan to you on July 16th, allow our teachers, our staffs to see the plan and how it relates to them on tomorrow, and then push it to the public formally on Monday. So the timing has been key. It's been almost spot on with what we hoped for until this afternoon about 2 o'clock when we got another directive, as y'all saw, for policies that really support the plan. So Coach Downey and I, we got in quick this afternoon, and we started going line item by line item through the plan. And just so you'll know, we have about 99% of the items that were required of us in the plan. There's just a few ancillary things, such as a specific location for an isolation room, names of people and different things like that we can easily come before you and correct on the August 6th meeting time. I'd like to direct your attention to the plan real quick. Just going to highlight some things and really have some people to thank as we go through here. Of course, the executive summary at the beginning of the document is your message, your voice to our community and to the public. It's the what, where, when, and how of how we got to where we are. It's all the things that I think allow us to govern now, to govern the 2021 school year through this process. If you look in the last paragraph, there's a statement in bold that we've already been able to identify back to the governor's order from this past Saturday, and so we'll continue to monitor the things there. The very next sentence also talks about where we do want to usher the autonomy to the schools to provide the things that they need for their school and their community, which we think is critical. Turning over, you see there's reopening plans and scheduling, which identifies the 3 phases that we're working under. Of course, we have focused on phase 2. We have tried to think of everything that we could that would surround phase 2 and then easily transition if we have to toggle back to phase 1. Dr. Bourgeois and her staff have provided plans for that. And then if we eventually move into phase 3, of course, that's an organic transition into that more one-on-one traditional look there. If you see, we listed and identified critical factors to develop the plan, and I think that was something that drove us in how we designed it and the things that we wanted to be careful of. And I would say to you tonight, the overall importance of everything that we're doing is the safety and security of the students and staff that we serve. And so that's been the top priority question with every facet of our plan throughout from what we've done. Again, we focused largely on what happens in phase 2, and you can see there that we have all of our elementary schools will be face-to-face, in person, in static groups in numbers of 25. And then we also have plain dealing and all of our self-contained special education classes will be in that also. Middle and high schools, grades 6 through 12, will be on an A-B, an alternating design. We will have cohorts A and B. Cohort A will be Monday and Wednesday. Cohort B will be Tuesday and Thursday, and we'll rotate Fridays. We went ahead and went to Labor Day, and so we pivoted off of that week, and that's going to be an A week. And so our initial first week, starting August 12th, will begin with Cohort A. On page 6, you see the student and staff health and safety. There is a litany of information that we covered there, and it's very important to how we want to address the needs of our staff and our students. We have literally 3 pages of COVID protocol, COVID prevention, COVID effort, so just everything that you've heard about in the news. We have tried to apply it to what Bossier Schools is going to provide for our students and our staff, as well as our community. The things that we have not only align with the CDC and the Louisiana Department of Health, but also in the guidance that's been provided to us by the Department of Education. I direct your attention to page 9 and 10. This is the operational part. And so I want to thank Colonel Haddon and his staff. Guys, he has worked tirelessly to provide us an avenue to get kids to school in a safe and secure manner. It was incredible to listen to him talk about all the different things that he's doing to try to make sure that we meet the standards, but also get our kids to school in a timely manner. There's a lot there as far as the bus operational standards that we've provided. I want to thank Mr. Stacy Roger and his staff. On page 11, you'll see some of the maintenance and custodial things that we're going to do. We want to assure the board that, and we've said this over and over and over again, the schools are going to be the safest and the most sanitized places our kids are going to go. We're committed to that. We're dedicated to it. Over anything else, we want them to be the cleanest and the most sanitized that we can provide for our students. Mr. Norwood developed a facility use packet for us. We went ahead and included that for our principals to use as a guide, as well as Ms. Carrie Douglas. She's done a great job of making sure we're supplied with the things that we need as far as PPE and other protectional items, and I'm going to come back to that in just a few minutes. Miss Carla Horton, you guys know, she was a rock star for us all summer long with feeding sites and providing meals for kids during, not the summer, during the shutdown, March, April, and May. And again, she's got a great plan for our schools where she's working with our schools to provide the child nutrition for each one of them. We felt that it was critical that we provide some human resource information with the various different things about the Corona Acts that's been passed that allows employees how they're going to deal with things. Mr. Thompson has been critical in the technology piece. Of course, we just have a snippet of what he's providing. There's going to be a landing page that's attached to our homepage where we're going to be able to find all the different things that's happening with technology and how that's going to roll out. Mr. Thompson has done a great job in creating that. We do believe this, one of the biggest pieces to this entire plan, and there's no pressure at all putting on this lady, but Ms. Sonia Bales in the communication piece, she developed an outstanding communication plan of how we want to roll it out. She's got, we have things that we've brainstormed, and one of the key components is that piece there on page 17, which is how we're going to combat misinformation. And so I would say this to you, the main thing that we felt was important there is that we didn't put too much stuff out first and then have to retract or correct or go back and redo and undo. And so hopefully this is what we're putting out is what we can go by. That'll be the easiest way to combat misinformation as well. Then you see, starting on page 18, Dr. Bourgeois and her team's their supplement to the plan, which is that of student learning, a very in-depth plan. She and her staff have done an incredible job of thinking through the details that we will need to meet the standards. And as she continues to say, she says, we're just not teaching, we are accelerating through the standards. And so we're coming with that mindset when we can get going. And you can see just a lot of the diagrams, a lot of the things that she has for you that you're equipped with, and so you'll be able to reference and talk about as well. The virtual learning academies there are at the bottom of page 21, and then our planning template, the guide that we used for our academic portion is there as well. You may say, well, Mr. Ronald, why is the academic piece the last piece of the document? Well, we felt like this, that everything else had to be in place before we could actually get to that part. And so that's the motivation, that's how we did it, and that's where we came from on it. And at this time, guys, I'm willing to open it up for any questions, any questions at all from the board.
Mr. Downey.
Thank you, President Bamberg. I want to let everybody know Dr. Martha White, the Regional Health Director for Region 7 for the Office of Public Health, is joining us via Zoom. So if there are any questions in reference to the health guidelines that we have adhered to, she's been working with us in a partnership along with another group of health advisors that include another pediatrician, an ER director, and some other medical professionals, along with some other people, supervisors in Bossier Parish schools. But Dr. White, would you like to make any statement as far as your interpretation of our plan?
I would just say, I know that y'all are between a rock and a hard place, and there's always going to be people who want it one way or the other. But I know that you've worked very hard to put the education of your students as well as the health of your teachers foremost in your thoughts and in your plans. And so I think you've worked hard and come up with a good plan, the best that we can, and we'll just have to monitor the situation in our community and move forward or backwards as we need to.
Mr. Bass. Thank you, Dr. White.
Thank you, Dr. White. Mr. Rowland, I just have a few questions. We had an opportunity to look through this earlier. PPE, can you get into that a little more for me as far as our employees, the students, that type of thing? Can you just give us a little more in depth on that?
Yes, sir. There's a lot that we're doing on the sanitizing side of it, and so we've been blessed this week alone. The Department of Homeland Security has came out and notified us of the things that they're going to provide to the districts. I'll say this to you: Bossier Parish was first to return the email for needs that we have. Every student and teacher in Bossier Parish will receive a cloth face mask. Every site will be provided 2,000 temporary or 2,000 paper masks. So we ordered 84,000 paper masks to be distributed in and through Bossier Parish. We've been lucky enough to have thermal scanners provided by the Department of Homeland Security. We were given 270, and so we've supplemented that order to try to equip our schools with enough of the things that they need there. We've also we've got lots of things that we're trying to do there. Mr. Roger and his staff have provided or have gone out and sought for sprayers that are electric by nature, that we can deep clean the classrooms every afternoon. And we'll be providing those to the schools. They have an atomized tip on them that will allow us to spray, and where we would just let it dry over the evening. Ms. Douglas and her staff were able to find 10 Aeroclave sanitizers, much like what the Bossier City Fire Department has. And so those are coming. We have product that's been purchased with that. Classrooms will be we'll have bottles of Halt in it with microfiber rags where the teachers can help us a little bit to make sure between those classes clean those high-touch areas. So we have a lot of things that are in the works and a lot of things that are going to happen in the next month as we prepare for that. But we certainly want to thank the Homeland Security and their efforts to reach out to us and help us in the ways that they can. Mr. Roger, I'm sure I'm forgetting something.
Sir, you covered most all of it, and did a great job of it. I would just like to say we did have a custodial meeting today, and it went well. We wanted to give them the comfort and the training. We certified them in pandemic and COVID training today with Spartan Chemical, so they know how to handle the situations and what chemicals they're using and how to use those appropriately. So we already had a great plan in Bossier Parish. If you've noticed over the years how well we maintain and keep sickness levels down in our parish, we've just upticked that and followed the guidelines one step further or several steps further to do the best we can with the situation.
We also ordered hand sanitizing stations for each school. That number will be predicated on the number of custodians that school has, and so they'll be spread out in high traffic areas. The problem is we can't get the stands. We can get the bladders and the boxes, but we're going to work to figure something out there, and we'll be creative to make sure we get those out on the first day of school as well.
A couple more questions. First of all, thank you on that. And this may be a question for Colonel Haddon. As far as the buses, I understand our plan, but what are we doing about those children that have to utilize daycare transportation afterwards, going from our facility to their transportation? Can you tell me a little bit about that, please?
I can. On Monday, we met again in our task force principals teams and began to think about everything that was outside of what Bossier Parish does. And of course, we want to make sure everybody's taken care of, but we had a concern about daycares and any guidance that they had been provided. So our elementary principals are reaching out to all the daycares that serve their schools. I am requesting that each daycare give us their plan, and their plan should look like ours as far as the different things, the things that Colonel Haddon has outlined. Those daycares will have to follow the same things. And so what we don't want to do is work all day in a static group with the elementary students and then have a bunch of them pile onto a bus in the afternoon that's not necessarily part of Bossier Parish. But we still want to take every precaution we can. We're going to communicate the expectations, and they should be coming back to us with their plan that follows the guidelines that the Louisiana Department of Health and the LDOE have provided.
So the parents that do utilize that will be able to see their daycare's plan and how it coordinates with ours. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Last question. Special education students. Can you give us a little more in depth on precautions being taken there also?
Yeah, our specialized classes, those self-contained classes, of course, are going to meet in person each day. And so I would just say this to you about special education. It's a part of our system, and if you read the document, special education is embedded in everything that we do already. And so we didn't necessarily want to just create a special education part of that, but we have embedded things that really mirror what they're doing already. Our department is literally out in front of this. Starting in March, they went virtual 2 weeks after, and they started doing a lot of things that were critical to the success of special education. Everything will be based on a student-to-student need. I've talked to Ms. Stafford, Ms. Holly about this as well, and so they have a great idea for how we're going to do things. Special education students, to meet their accommodations, they will be on a rotating schedule. They will be just like everybody else. The inclusion process will happen through special ed just like the regular ed. And so they've got a great idea about how to go about doing IEPs. We can do things virtually. We can do things in person. We may have to do some continuation stuff, but they are well equipped to handle that and ready for the challenge.
Thank you very much.
We have a text-in question from member Mr. Eric Newman. He said he wanted to know how we would be cleaning the keyboards for the computer labs
Yes,
between
sir.
classes.
We have, we talked about that as well. And so we've got two different types of keyboards. Visited with Mr. Thompson about that. And so you have those that are regular keyboards that are attached to a PC, and then we have the laptop or the Chromebook keyboards. And so met with Mr. Roger and Mr. Thompson about that. We are, with the regular keyboards, we're perfectly good to either buy covers for those, and some schools have the ability to do that, or we can spray that with the Halt disinfectant, and then with the microfiber, and that's the key, the microfiber wipe, we can wipe down those boards. The issue with Chromebooks or laptops is just a little bit different. Instead of spraying the disinfectant on the device, we'll spray it on the microfiber rag and then wipe it down. The touchpad, the keypad, and the screen as well.
Thank you. Mr. Backhouse.
Coach, on the classes, are we going to have classes like we had last year, including PE, band, drama, home ec? Are we going to have all the classes that we used to have, or are we filtering it down a little bit?
Now, we're going to continue to have classes like that. Now, of course, we have to be extremely careful. We're not going to be in the locker room in phase two. We get that. And so there's opportunities for physical education, if you will, that really probably lead you more to the health side of it for a little while. We can put partitions in the gym, create 25-person static groups in those gym, or 25 people in those groups. And we're going to try to function as much as normal as possible. We just won't be dressing out. We'll have to keep our mask on. We'll do some things that are, we'll try to keep them 6 feet apart in what we're doing. Band, look, Mark Minton came and talked to us. The principals have a great plan for band. We can't blow, we can't sing, we can't do all those things, but we can teach music. We can go outside, we can separate and do some things. So during those periods we can. Home ec, you just got to follow the guidelines, apply the plan to every facet of what we're doing, and we feel safe about how those outcomes will be.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Excellent.
Mr. Cheatham.
Yeah, I'm going to put my parent hat on for a minute and ask this question, I guess, from a parent angle. So my son, who's going into 6th grade, he'll be going, let's say he's in the A, he'll go Monday. Tuesday, when he is at home, is that going to be a Zoom virtual learning? Is that going to be information that's given to him on Monday to work on Tuesday? Kind of, what's that look like, or do we know yet?
Thank you, Mr. Cheatham. We discussed this at length. In fact, we brought a group of the probably 20 teachers, high school and middle school in. They represented the best of the best in Bossier Parish, and they worked with us this summer in identifying super essential standards. And we separated the high school from the middle school, and those two groups actually defined, based on Mr. Downey's request, what the AB scheduling looks like. And so across the board, everyone decided teaching and learning has to continue every single day. We cannot waste time. We can't waste time with remediation. We are using the terminology accelerated learning. And so we have 3 months to close of learning gaps to close, and so every day will be a brand new lesson. That lesson will be posted prior to the start of that particular school day. The students who are present on a particular day will have the benefit, and nothing can replace face-to-face instruction, teaching, and learning. And the students on the the hybrid day, the virtual day, they will receive their assignments as not only assignments, but will also have access to recorded lessons. Now, we do have an issue with the broadband where every teacher, middle school and high school teacher, could not invite them to a Google Hangout or not a Hangout, a Google Meet or a Zoom and watch it that way. But they can pre-record their lessons or record it and then post that lesson on YouTube or some other platform. So teaching and learning is going to happen. Teachers will not teach the same lesson more than once. They may review with the hybrid group when they actually see them face to face. But we have to put the pedal to the metal to catch up and close those gaps. Many of the gaps that already existed then were exacerbated by COVID-19. It's estimated that the gap widened by 30% in ELA and 50% in math. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
One thing I think we all have agreed upon is that the biggest challenge that we as Bossier schools face is the perception that March, April, and May left. Not only for students, but also for even some staff, is getting over the way that was done. And now let's moving forward where it's not no harm, no foul anymore, where it is every day counts. Every day we have to continue to improve, and we've got to continue to move forward.
Mr. Rowland, I'm going to take just a minute and commend everybody. I mean, just about everybody's in this room. Mr. Brotherton pointing to, she probably wants to do the same thing. But, man, you guys have been out in front of this from day one, prepared beyond measure. I think there's school systems moving dates around and all kind of things trying to tackle this. And I think we steadfast for August 12th, and we're just going to have a can-do attitude to make it happen. I mean, I've seen it all come down. It all started with Senate Bill 59, House Bill 59 that says, hey, if you want liability insurance for your COVID-related issues, here's your Bible. And y'all got to take that at a very late date when everybody was still trying to figure out what to do. We were almost there. I mean, y'all had done so much preparation at that point that we were just about there and had to just tackle a few little things to put that together and put it in place as it looks like today. And like you said, you got something as late as 2 o'clock today with little nuance, little changes to it, but you guys have done an absolute unbelievable job, and Bossier should be super, super proud of the processes and things that we're putting in place so we can have as much face-to-face interaction with our teachers. And we're going to do that in the most safe environment. I like the way you said it. This is the cleanest place your kids are going to be. It's the cleanest place the teachers are going to be. I live with a teacher, and she's going to be cleaner at school than she is at home. So probably because she has me there. But the mask is always going to be an issue. I mean, I watched the Bessie meeting, and can kids wear them? Can they keep them on? Can they keep their hands away from it? Kindergarten through second, we're going to give them a little reprieve on the mask. But after you get over that, we need that in place to keep people as safe as we can for our environment. There's all kind of information out there, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. Can they tell me what to do? I think starting the school year, one, we were mandated to do it, but two, I just think it's the best thing to do to keep our staff and our kids and our employees in the school our bus drivers on the bus. It's going to be a hassle, and I know we're going to ask more of our teachers this year than we ever have. We're going to ask more of the kids than we've ever asked. But starting August 12th and what you guys have done to get us in a position to start and be ready to go has just been unbelievable on you guys' part. So I just wanted to make that quick statement on what a great job I think you guys have done. I think it's going to be looked at across the state as probably the parish that led in this venture. So thank you, sir. Mr. Bullard.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2 or 3 comments. First of all, to second what President Bamberg said. Mr. Downey, Mr. Rowland, Dr. Bourgeois, y'all have done an outstanding job. This, if there was ever a lemon thrown in your not in your lap, but in your face, we've had one thrown at us, and through your collective efforts and the efforts of many, many who I've not named, you're doing your best to make a lemonade out of it. And your efforts are not going unnoticed. Just about an hour ago, I received a text, and I'm just going to read it to you. It's from LSBA Executive Director Janet Pope. She said, Bossier, and this was unsolicited. She said, Bossier is at the forefront of most school systems. Mitch and his team have done a great job. She had previously indicated that we were out front. We being each of you and your colleagues and staff. Y'all have just done an outstanding job. I want to commend you on that. At the same time, I'm going to express great concern. You've given us the procedures, you've given us the protocols to provide our children with as safe and sanitary facility as can be provided. How we deliver the educational aspect, I don't think anybody can gauge it right now. I think you and our instructional staff are going to do the very best job you can. But we're going into uncharted waters. Never been there before. So you've got a pretty big job ahead of you. And I don't think there's a person on this board that's not going to support you 100%. Thank you for your efforts. One final comment. I'm getting questions and comments daily. And so many of them are what ifs. What if, what if, what if? There's no way we can address every potential incident. So I hope the parents and our citizens will show the respect and the support that we are very we will adapt. Bossier Parish school system will adapt, but they're just going to have to give you the opportunity to do it. My hat's off to all of you and every employee of this school system. Boy, y'all have you've done a phenomenal job in a very brief period of time with some pretty tough mandates to deal with. So thank you, and I'll shut up. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Bullard. Ms. Brotherson?
Well, I do echo what they said, but I do have, would you just briefly go over how we're going to handle the PE and art and music in the elementary school? Are they going to be leaving their classes to go there, or is that teacher coming to them? How's that going to work?
I think, Doc, you may have to jump in and help me here. As far as elementary schools, we were talking yesterday with some elementary principals about what that would look like. We think maybe music can stay static. The music could stay in the classroom and have the teacher rotate in. Of course, we can't necessarily rotate PE in there. The principals are the most creative people that especially the elementary principals. And we went outside yesterday and looked at, as long as we can get outside, a lot of the principals were talk about staging dividers, or I hate to use the word corrals, but they were talking about building places for Miss Brotherton's class to go, and then Mr. Geis's class will go here where they can go outside and do things. May have to do PE with that teacher, but they're still going to get that opportunity. Now, if we can put dividers in the gym, we can put partitions, and we could have 2 classes on each end and still do PE. If you have 2 PE teachers, that would help. We don't want to disrupt the static group with that teacher, but we do feel like if you could stay 6 feet away, keep your mask on, don't get in between them, stand behind a shower curtain or whatever it takes, that they can still do those types of things.
There were several elementary people that were wondering about that. And all I have to say is, when you employ the best people, you get the best plan. And that's what we have here in Bossier. We have great people working for us. And I would like to just add my little sentiments. Y'all did an outstanding job. This was a lot of work, and I don't think people realize how much went into all of this. We just would like to thank you, and thank you for everything you do, everyone that worked on it. That's all.
But Coach Downey said it best, and he said, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it well.
Well, we did.
And that's where we're going.
Vice President Smith.
Mr. Rowland, I know on page 7 kind of goes over the protocol as far as positive cases and reporting. Is there a threshold that's been established? If there's a certain number of cases, are we going to contact parents? What is going to be that communication if there is a higher threshold at a school or in a classroom? How are we going to handle that?
Dr. White is on the call, and she's our point of contact when we have a positive. She will help us dig through the specifics and then make those determinations based on the circumstances of each of those individual situations. And then also Mr. Geis has been in communication with the Louisiana Department of Health to try to get some of those questions answered about the number of cases within a school, what would warrant that school being shut down for a week or two, and all of those different things. And that what we've communicated to our employees is that there's really not a one-size-fits-all here. It all depends on who had direct contact and how that will be determined. And that's basically within 6 feet for over 15 minutes. That would be someone that would be considered in close contact and would be a candidate for a quarantine. But even the length of quarantine is not going to be the same depending on the specifics of the situation. So I think that's a very, very fluid and detail required situation. Dr. White, would you mind speaking to that in terms of, is there a threshold for the number of cases, or what's the specific protocol when there's a positive within a classroom?
So really what we want to look at is
You're cutting out a little bit on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
I'm sorry. So, again, assigned seating on buses, that helps us as well, so that we don't have to necessarily quarantine the whole bus, but we could quarantine the people that were around that child on the bus. So, we're here to help you with that. It's going to change with each situation. We're here, we'll help guide you about who needs to sit out and for how long. So I hope that will reassure you in that manner. Does that answer your question? It's going to be very fluid, like you said, sir. It's going to be dependent on whether it was a child that's changing classes frequently or whether it's a child in a static class and how many people that person was around.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. White.
Any more comments? Mr. Rowland, thank you for you and your team and everybody that's associated with this document. Thank you so much. Do we need to we need a motion to approve this document?
I have one more question.
One more question by Mr. Bass.
And just so I understand this, we're making a motion and tonight. Tomorrow, our employees will get an opportunity to go through this, and Monday, as I understand it, the public will have an opportunity to see, and we'll be rolling out. Do I have that timeline correct? Okay.
So we're just looking for a motion to adopt this document.
Make a motion to adopt it.
Motion by Ms. Brotherton,
Second.
second by Mr. Dean. Please vote. Motion carries. Item 3.02, a request for the approval of the pupil progression plan for 2021, presented by Dr. Nicole Bourgeois.
Superintendent Downey, President Bamberg, and board members, it's that time again for us to review the pupil progression plan, look at the template that the State Department provided for us, and identify some changes that we needed to make this a better document and to support students the way that they need. Again, the pupil progression plan actually establishes how we are going to address student placement and promotion. Just a couple of notes. There are some required steps that my department has to make in order to, prior to coming to the board. We had to convene an educator meeting that was held on June 15th, 2020, and then we held a parent educator meeting, and that was held on July 8th, 2020. The parents that were present that y'all nominated included Janine Small and Casey Robinson. We allowed for a public review of the document July 9th, July 13th, and 14th of 2020. And then as you review the document, you will notice the print is in two different colors. Everything printed in black is directly from the framework provided by the LDOE, and subsequent descriptions printed in blue represents additions that the Bossier schools included, and they were mostly copied from last year's pupil progression plan. I do want to just note a couple of changes as you go through, and you probably wouldn't notice these unless I called them to your attention. The first thing is on page 2, the LDOE did include a background and purpose, which I think is important for the public as they review this document, that they have a very good understanding of its purpose. Also, on page 10 and 11, the LDOE, once COVID hit, realized that we had some issues with the NCAA and what they accept on student athlete transcripts. And so the State Department included a section on the NCAA and non-traditional courses, information for school administrators, credit recovery programs, distance e-learning environments. These, all of which were not allowed in the past. Okay? Another thing that you will notice is a change on page 13. Under gifted in the blue, Bossier Schools changed middle school ELA gifted elective to allow for participation in pre-AP ELA, and we added the gifted enrichment program designed much like the elementary gifted enrichment program. And again, that is on page 13. Also on page 13, Bossier Schools added under alternative education placements a statement that we were going to operationalize an elementary virtual learning academy at Bel Air Elementary. If you go to page 16, we have a list of designated courses. These designated courses exist on the expanded grading scale. In the very first column, you'll notice we included middle school pre-advanced program, pre-advanced AP. and they will also be on that grading scale. The purpose of doing this is we removed honors classes as part of our efforts to gain unitary status in the Bossier Parish school system. And finally, page 17. If you go down and find where it is labeled grades 1 through 8, the elementary principals as well as the middle school principals felt like once COVID hit and we moved to an 18-week recovery grading period instead of a fourth 9-week grading period, it benefited the students because it allowed those students more time to master the standards and to participate in grade recovery efforts. And so we moved from a 4 9-week grading period for elementary and middle school and went to 2 18-week periods. And this is the same type of configuration we have been using in the high school since we've been on the 4x4. So there are a lot of advantages there. The parents will receive a 4.5-week report of progress at every 4.5 weeks, but 2 report cards and 1 final grade in that class. Do you have any questions for me at this time?
Entertain a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cheatham, second by Ms. Smith. Please vote. Motion carries. Item 3.03, a request back-to-school checks presented by Ms. Nisha Bamberg, CFO.
Good evening. It's getting to be that time of year again, and so I'm coming before the board asking for y'all's approval for us to issue the back-to-school checks this year. No change from prior years, $725 back-to-school check that'll be issued the first day of school, August 10th. And I think I sent y'all a copy of the memo with the guidelines. Like I said, should be the same as prior years.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cheatham,
Second.
second by Ms. Brotherton. Please vote.
Mr. Bamberg.
Mr. Cheatham.
Yeah, I would just like to make a comment about that, and I know I looked earlier, we had about 70 or 80 people watching on YouTube, but you know, this check is always very special to our teachers and our staff, and I think, you know, when this thing becomes official, you're going to have 50% of the Karens are going to be with us, and 50% of the Karens are going to be against us, and our teachers are going to be struggling, and there's you know. So this check means a lot to me for our employees, and also to know that they have our support and that they have their administrator support. I know it's, you know, you get bogged down with what's real information and what's not real information, and I really hope that I know y'all have done a great job with our plan, but the communication part of it, whether that's through Sonia and it goes through the principals, that all of our teachers are on board with what's going on, because they're going to be feeling the heat from the parents, and they're going to be, you know, it's just going to be overwhelming for everyone. But I am very concerned for our teachers in the classroom with this change, adding that they're going to have to, you know, take care of the kids that are in front of them that day, but they're also going to have to get the stuff ready for the kids that are at home. Just want to go on record again saying how much we appreciate our teachers. I think we've said tonight how much we appreciate our team that's put this great plan together, and now our teachers and our principals are going to have to go out and execute this, and it's going to be fast moving, and we're going to have more things coming at the teachers, and just appreciate our teachers. Glad we can approve this check and move forward with this. So that's all I've got.
So you've heard the motion. Please vote. Motion Motion carries. Item 3.04, request approval of the resolution for voluntary 403B plan document amended and restatement with Voya, presented by Ms. Nisha Bamberg.
All right, this one is, I know the attachment you got was really long. It's really not that complicated of a process. Our 403B is, anyway, it's retirement that gets paid into. School board doesn't pay anything into it. We don't pay anything into the 403B plans, but we do allow that for the employees that are not in TRSL, ELSERS, or that choose to pay into the 403B. With that being said, Voya is our primary plan document. We do have other plans, but Voya is our primary document that carries. When we looked at the document, it was not complete. It was missing verbiage and things like that. Ultimately, all we're doing is updating the verbiage in the plan document. We're not changing any provisions. We're not changing any of the requirements or the restrictions on the employees. All we're doing is strictly updating the verbiage. But to update that, we do need a board resolution to approve this.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Bass.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bullard. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Bamberg.
Thank y'all.
All right, 3.06, a request approval of solicitation award bid number 21-01 propane gas purchases, presented by Ms. Carrie Douglas.
Good evening, President Bamberg, Superintendent Downey, board members. On June 18th, we took bids for propane gas for the new propane buses we have added to our fleet. So tonight I bring before you a motion to award this bid to Jim South Propane as the vendor with the highest score.
Motion by Ms. Brotherton. Second by Mr. Dean. Please vote. Mr. Wiggins was wondering if anybody local bid.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 3.07, a request approval of solicitation award RFP number 21-00 for HVAC filter service, also presented by Ms.
All right, on July 7th, we took proposals for HVAC filter service. We received 2 proposals. I put together an evaluation committee that scored each proposal, and so tonight I'm asking that the mechanical cooling services be awarded as the proposer with the highest score.
Just one question, if you could go back to the previous slide. You do read the city that's underneath that also, so I just wanted to point out we are specifically using a Bossier City company for this one, so I appreciate that very much.
I do too.
We need a motion to use them.
I'll make the motion to use them.
Motion by
please.
Mr. Bachhaus.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Bass. Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 3.08 through 3.01 will be a report for Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting held July 14th, presented by Ms. Billy Jo Brotherton.
Thank you, President Bamberg. The Buildings and Ground Committee met on July the 14th, 2020. All members were there on the committee except Mr. Newman. We also had President Bamberg, Vice President Ms. Tammy Smith, and a few other board members. The first item on the agenda that we had to take action on, the committee recommends that the Bossier Parish School Board authorize allocation of the $2,005,400 bond premium to anticipated AC projects. This is a one-time payment.
Okay, and this is out of committee. Please vote. Motion carries.
The second item that we take action on, the committee recommends that the Bossier Parish School Board authorize small cell private property lease and easements at Curtis Elementary and Parkway High School, and authorize the superintendent to sign agreements and related documents. It was unanimous in committee.
And this is out of committee. Please vote. Motion carries.
We also had a few items that were just discussion only. The first one was a drainage study at T.L. Rhodes Elementary on their playground. Butch Ford, the Bossier Parish engineer with the police jury, came and presented a report to us, and he is going to go back and do some more on the study and get back with us. The second thing was Clarence Babineau was here, and he updated us on the 2012 bond construction that's going on with all the projects. Also, we discussed the Halton High School bleacher update, Benton Intermediate School wing completion, and the Halton Highway 157 closing on some property there that we have. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Brotherton. Item 3.12 and 3.13 will be the report from the Beef Leaf Committee held today, presented by Chairperson Shane Cheatham.
The Beef Leaf Committee met today at 5:30 here at the Bossier Instructional Center. We had myself, Mr. Adam Bass, Mr. Bachhaus, Mr. Wiggins from the committee that were present. We also had President Bamberg and Vice President Tammy Smith. The action item that we had from the committee recommends the Bossier Parish School Board approve the commitment of beef funds for technology expenses. The motion was made by Adam Bass. It was seconded by Mr. Wiggins. Passed unanimously. This was out of committee, so please vote.
Thank you, Mr. Cheatham.
I took your say in there. That's all right.
It's all right.
Habit.
Motion carries. Announcements, item 4.0, announcements, superintendent comments.
Thank you, President Bamberg. Appreciate all the positive comments about the plan and all of the acknowledgement. I think Mr. Thompson, Colonel Haddon, Mr. Rowland, Dr. Bourgeois, those groups of teachers, I mean, people have been amazing. We've been working extremely hard to develop these plans, and I think it's a team effort, and everybody works well together. Everybody has different strengths, and it's resulted in, I think, a quality plan that, like several of you said, now we have to put it into play and try to navigate moving forward. But we have a great deal of confidence that we have a great team, including all of our teachers that want to do what's best for students. And as long as we keep that in the forefront of our mind, we're all going to be fine. So with that being said, on Saturday, July 18th at 9:30 a.m. In Logansport at the RB4 Event Center, there'll be a Bossier Parish School Board training session, which will give an opportunity for you to earn several CLUs. The Strong Start Plan will be released on Monday to the public, July 20th. The next regular session of the board will be 6 p.m. August 6th here at the BIC. That concludes my announcements, President Bamberg.
Leads us to 5.01, adjournment. Mr. Slack?
Me?
That's you.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
By Mr. Slack and a second by Mr. Bass. Please vote. Board members, we have dinner.